Welcome to the RTS Podcast. My name is Ramiro Tangi, and this is where you'll find real stories around values, faith, culture, and entrepreneurship. Our goal is to inspire you to take bold action today and to help you build a legacy that impacts future generations. In each episode, we'll share stories and insights, help you take the next step with confidence. So let's get started. Welcome to the RTS Podcast. The RTS Podcast highlights values, faith, culture, and entrepreneurship through real-life stories to inspire bold action and create lasting impact. In this episode, we welcome Aaron Ryan, a talented actor, journalist, and community leader. Some call him the Wayne The Rock Johnson. Aaron's journey reflects a deep commitment to creativity, growth, and inspiring others. Together, we'll discuss how his work and values shape his life and those around him. Welcome on board today, Us. Good to have you on board.
I'll go get Aaron Ryan. He's just in the car park waiting.
Bro, it's been a while since we last
Yeah,
talked,
man.
and like just this offline, it's always refreshing getting to see you. And I was admiring your attire today. If you don't know, we were kind of wearing the same shorts and sandals. Oh wow, censor that, censor that, like
Yeah. Sorry, only feet.
that's universal about this podcast. But bro, it's been a while since we last caught up.
Yeah.
You were actually that takes you back. You were actually the first podcast I was ever on, bro. Do you remember that time you came to my house?
I interviewed you at your house.
I know.
I was thinking about it like a full circle moment today. I was dropping off one of my mates to work this morning because she works in Monaco.
Yeah.
And I was like, bit of a full circle moment because I interviewed this guy maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and then now we're here.
That's funny, and as you speak about how you've interviewed me, and you actually interviewed me in different kind of facets of your career.
Yeah.
I'm like, frick, I'm an imposter. I'm the guy that interviews other people, but bro, right off the bat, bro, I just wanted to check in with you and how's things on your end, and what are you up to nowadays?
Man, it's been a crazy year. So these days I'm a freelance journalist at
Yeah.
the moment. I just finished filming for a long 6 months last year in a TV show. I can't talk about it too much because we have those non-disclosures that you can't talk about. But yeah, I just
Oh, your whole family.
yeah, I told all my family. I've told you it often, Najee. But yeah, I just finished filming a TV series for 6 months of the year, and I was in the journalism space before, but now I'm just a freelancer, and I'm looking sort of to do similar to this, bro. I'm looking to launch my own sort of media company
Wow.
slash business on the side because we need to make money in order for it to survive. So that's what I'm up to.
Bro, that's exciting, man. And like, I've always known you to be like a hustler, like just opportunistic, like just and using your talents. And you have run a number of other business ventures that I've been able to support. But I kind of want to start it wind it back a bit, like through your career journey, and like I guess if people don't know, me and Aaron went to school together. And he used to boss me around in Simon Creek. But
You're like 7 years.
But yeah, I just want like post school, bro. Like, what was it like? Cause I guess as I was going through school and watching your journey through arts and creative, and now you're in journalism. What was that like for you, like, integrating into your career?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I talk to some of my closest people about
Yeah.
this all the time. Is we went to a school, bro, St. Peter's College in Auckland City, Catholic boys' school, where performing arts was never a thing. Like, I think when you started getting into your senior years, it was they had the drama classes in the hall and stuff. But when I was at St. Peter's, you took drama to get a free period. But I was actually really passionate about
Yeah.
it. Like, we had teachers there.
Bro, remember a drama room? They
Yeah.
had no love.
Yeah,
bro.
they had no love. They had a teacher there selling us chips and drinks for $2 there. I won't name him because he's a great guy. But yeah, so after high school, once I finished high school, I really wanted to give performing arts a go. But I remember going to that careers office we had at school, and they said to me, "Oh, so which university do you want to go to?" And I was like, "Oh, I've wagged half of this year because." The thing is, for me, I didn't realize till after high school, I wasn't really academically there. Like, I didn't pass year 11, somehow got into year 12. And then when you pass year 12, you somehow pass year 11 as well. And I didn't come to school for my year 13 year, pretty much. And so leaving high school, I was like, oh, all right, now I'll get this university thing go because
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. And they gave me a pamphlet to AUT. I applied to AUT.
The best uni?
Yeah, and it turned out it was a great uni.
Yeah.
I went and got my diploma, and then they said, "Oh, let's do your degree." So I spent 5 years at university doing nothing, bro. Like after my diploma, I just mucked around because I had this passion like for performing arts. I just didn't know anyone in it,
Yeah.
and
No,
yeah, I actually didn't know anyone in it.
wasn't. Yeah.
And then but as I was teaching, coming back to teach St. Peter's for Samoan group, we got a name for ourselves. We did manage to do quite well,
Yeah.
and that just somehow attracted the right people to me. Like some people in the performing arts space.
Did you get into Ulsa and stuff like right when you
And
started uni?
when I started uni, so when I done AUT Samoan Association, this is how I started meeting these people as well, and they were in the performing arts space. So it wasn't until 22 years old that I got to do my first show. I'm now 32.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then after I managed to meet these people and do my first theater show, I just ended up doing everything. Joined as many dance groups as I can, got an agent, and then yeah, just went from audition to audition for theater shows. And but really, I've been blessed in my performing arts career from the people who run Sawasiva Creatives. They had been doing a lot more things before that. But they gave me my first opportunity, and if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't probably going to AUT, I know I said I, I didn't want to go university, but if I didn't meet those people in our Samoan Association, then I wouldn't have had this interesting performing arts career.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, and what I've learned from afar, like and know about performing arts, it's cutthroat, bro. It's not often the career pathway that makes you the most money. No, usually those right at the top are the ones that are creamy in it. And so, like as a man trying to establish your career, what was that like financially too? Like going into that,
Yeah, like
making those decisions.
yeah, it was a bit like that. Man, that's a great question because I tell you, it's been up and down,
Yeah.
and my parents loved what I done, and they supported. And my sister, they come to every show. Like they'll come to. We might do 26 shows in 3 weeks. They were there for three of them. They'd come to opening night, closing night, but it wasn't the most paid, especially in the Pacific Island community.
Oof.
When you go to the Palangi communities and you go to people like Auckland Theatre Company, or you get these big contracts, they pay really well. But we're still trying to make our way up there, and I believe we will in 10 years. But financially, it was hard, and it still is hard. You know, I'm 32 and I just secured my first like big time thing last year
Oh,
after doing it from the age of 20, starting in 22. So you have to have jobs. And I'll tell you about this time in 2016. I got a job at the bowling alley in Botten.
yeah.
It's I forgot what it's called
Yeah.
now. It was called
Time zone.
yeah,
Near
called-
Macca's.
yeah, near
Yeah,
Macca's. So I,
Actually, Macca's is the way market.
or the Kmart, depending on which one you go to.
Or the subway. 100 meters away from it.
There's a bar across the road too. But there, I got a job there, and for my mate Manny, yeah, my friend who's now passed away, so rest in peace to the also.
Rest
But
in peace.
he was the manager there, and he gave me a job because I was like, man, I really want to give this performing arts thing a go, but I do need like a part-time job. He's like, bro, come work at the bowling alley.
Yeah.
You can just do whatever you want. So I've done
Yeah.
a few things, worked in the bar, host kids' birthday parties. I just worked at the bowling alley. But he he didn't know that how much time off I would need for these shows. Yeah. So he told me to come in, and I think it was every school holidays I needed to go to a show because
Yeah, that's
for some reason I was getting hired for school holiday shows. But that was our busiest time at the bowling alley. And man, I took off every school holiday, and he kind of didn't like it because he was like, look, all these people have asked for these school holidays off, but I'm giving it to you. Like it was one of those, you're my brother, I want to see you go. But that's the type of thing you do. You go through the struggle of you want to do this performing arts thing, but you also need an income to pay your bills. Luckily at that young of age, I was living with my parents. But yeah, it's still pretty hard, and it's only probably now I'm seeing the other side of it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, 'cause I've always admired your performing arts journey, and I've been able to watch a couple of your shows, and um, always admire you as a dancer, bro. Because it's going through Samoan group school, like I think dance is and is an opportunity to learn about your culture. It's a vehicle, another vehicle, right? And when I started St. Peter's, that was another way for me to connect with my culture, and as a father now and as a matai. Um, I'm glad I had that experience because we're immersed in it. You know, you think about Polyfest, the biggest Polynesian cultural festival. At the start of the year, um, we always used to come at the start of the year and come together and be immersed in the culture. And I think that's something that um, I learned a lot about you, bro. Um, and so, transitioning from your performing arts career, bro. Um, what was that like until? Well, obviously you got into journalism, but did you do anything in between? I felt like there was a period that you were doing something, and then you went into journalism.
Yeah, so once I joined a multiple of
Yeah,
dance groups,
yeah,
those people who go perform at gigs, and
yeah.
I guess that's, and shout out to Tatal Dance Group
Mm,
who gave me that opportunity where I learned the love of performing live. And we uh there was a lot. We started a group called Pastika,
mm.
which we went and performed at multiple events. Even got to go overseas
Wow.
at times. Then we also we started a group called Samoa Dance Group Aotearoa,
Yeah.
which funny because we toured Mount Roskill back in 2016, and the video went up on YouTube
Yeah.
of our Polyfest performance. And this man from New Caledonia, this rich man who owns a bakery, was like, "I really want this in a show in New Caledonia." So he just flew over and marched, and he's like, "Hey, my name's Veal. I'd like to come talk to you guys about possibly bringing you over to New Caledonia." And we just thought, "Oh yeah, all right then. New Caledonia, we'll have to fundraise everything,
Yeah.
but let's just go see what this man." This man was like, "Nah, I'll pay for 51 people to come over. Accommodation sorted, food sorted, and you're gonna perform in a stadium of 5,000 people. It was a basketball stadium." And then so yeah, and then he's like, "You guys just have 6 months," and he was really like, "Just have 6 months. This is what I want." He had this whole show planned out, and so for a good, yeah, 2 years we planned for that show, and then we're meant to go to Switzerland with the same group because they have a festival over in Switzerland
Yeah.
in Europe. Um, but COVID happened, and then during
Oh,
COVID,
COVID.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, our people, you bring up culture, but over in Europe, there is such a demand for the South Pacific to go over and perform at these festivals,
Right.
where a lot of these things are paid for. You just got to somehow find your way over. You get paid a fee,
Yeah.
you get paid your accommodations there, you get paid all the travel experiences, but you just got to get over there. And it's something we wanted to try and do back in 2020, but we couldn't do it. But yeah, there's a huge opportunity for us out more.
Man, I didn't know that there was such a demand out there for.
Huge
Sure.
demand. They've never had a lot of these festivals have never had South Pacific
Yeah.
people go perform over there.
And so I guess like being in different dance groups, getting gigs and stuff, um, then being asked to go overseas. You kind of, I want to bring it to like kind of the business acumen stuff.
Mm.
Because then you kind of have to teach yourself these business things and project managing, teaching like how to organize a group and the logistics of it. Did you have other people helping you do this and helping you get gigs, or did you have to learn this yourself? Or
Yeah, you know, back then when social media is such a
yeah,
giant, but we didn't have to do
yeah,
too much social media back then
yeah,
because you perform at an event and there's
yeah, word
probably
of
like,
mouth.
yeah,
Yeah.
300 people there. You impress one person, they'll be like, "Oh, can I just
So
grab your
does
number?"
the Zatal group, they do it really well, like in terms of who like they by the end of their set,
Mm.
people know who they are,
Yeah.
and then the word of mouth travels fast. Like
Yeah.
they do much.
And that's still the age of our Pacific Island people at the moment, I guess. But that's also I guess, one of the core principles of
Yeah,
business two-way is like you do a really good
yeah.
job.
Word of mouth travels
Yeah.
far, man.
Social media is just an ability for you to leverage on the good word of mouth that you already had.
Yeah,
But man, yeah, I didn't, man, I wish I had this stuff around. We were, because when I started these dance groups, automatically I was pushed to this side, like handling the money,
yeah,
getting, talking, like they say, "Oh, people want to hire us for this." And then they'd get me to go talk to these
yeah.
people. When eventually I started my own performing arts group, and then I handled that side. But I didn't know about what percentage to save, how much we should invest in the people, how to apply for funding,
Yeah,
all of that stuff. And I had to handle it myself.
yeah,
I wish I charged more
yeah.
for the stuff we done because we were charging what, $300 a 10 to 20 minute performance when people are charging now 700 minimum.
Yeah.
Like back then, that and that was a thing. And like I I now after meeting a lot of Maori, after working for Maori television, a lot of these kapahaka groups do this, and man, their base rate is like, it's probably $1,000,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like, man, I wish I knew that, because I was settling for so low, and no wonder why we didn't survive. We
Yeah.
just couldn't, because the boys weren't being, there was no incentives for them. Only after a year of doing it for the love, you're like, okay, I need
Yeah.
some more love to pay
Yeah.
my bills. So
Yeah,
yeah,
just saying, hey, you got to put bread on the table, and so I guess that just comes with learning, bro,
mm,
and I guess you're more mature from that and can make better decisions. And so
100%.
I want to touch on journalism, bro.
Yeah.
So you were able to get a scholarship through a journalism program. Tell us more, bro.
Yeah, man, it's like it's something in my life that I will talk about for the rest of my life. It was a program called Terito, and the government decided we need what's the word?
What's a PC? What you put your PC face on, bro?
We need more brown people in the media. That's what we need. We not just brown people. We need diverse opinions as well.
Oh.
Because there was like, it wasn't just Pacific Islander and Maori in this program. It was we had some Pākehā in there. We had people who were from like the Asian community too. So the government decided that, oh well, these group of people, I don't know who it is, but they decided they would approach these News Hub New Zealand or NZME, who's under New Zealand Herald, Pacific Media Network, and what was the last one? Whakaata Māori. And they decided, let's do this program because we need our people, more people in the industry. And so they sent out these applications, and they said, hey, if you want to be paid to study journalism, and this is in the heat of COVID. This is 2020 when they started asking for applications. And because we were sort of coming out of it, so they thought, oh yeah, we'll just go back to normal. And then they put it up. We applied. A lot of us applied from all over the country. So they come from the people that applied actually come from, especially the Maori ones, from real deep Maori community where they don't even speak English. And so all of us applied. 25 got in out of 100 and something applicants, and we were paid. We studied for about 11 weeks just online. And then we went into working in TV3, the New Zealand Herald, Pacific Media Network, and Māori Television, or there's an always back then, it's now Whakaata Māori. And we just like went and just got pushed into these workplaces. And man, it was an interesting time because a lot of us, nearly all of us, didn't have a background in journalism, and they wanted that. They wanted people with outside perspectives to come into media because that's what they need.
Was there a prerequisite around being confident in front of a mic? Because when you think of journalism, you think of reporter, being able to chat, but also being able to write. Like, did you have to have any prerequisites in that regards?
You had to have one. You had to have one that was you were either confident in front of the camera or you were a good writer. And you just had to show that sort of experience. To be honest, it was like any other job application. It's just you had to send a video of yourself. And that was the way to get into the program. And it was quite an interesting time because we had these kayako, our teachers, who had been doing journalism since they were 17 years old, and now they were, I think, maybe in their 50s, and all they knew was journalism. And so we had this exchange where they were teaching us journalism, and there was stuff we didn't agree with in terms of how the news was reported, like how South Aucklanders were being portrayed, how the minority people were being portrayed, how certain politicians were being exposed more than others, and we would fight back at it. We'd be like, no, we don't think that should be said. Like, I'll give you an example. Who's that Samoan tennis lady that just
Yeah,
won
I don't know her
Australian
name. I
Open?
just followed her on Instagram.
So she's come, like, her story's been told, but a lot of the mainstream media are talking about her mental health issues, and then they go on to say, oh, she just won her first game of the Australian Open, and people are commenting like, why does her mental health issues have anything to do with with her winning her first game of the Australian Open? And there were so many examples like that. Sorry, that's the only one I could think of now. But there were so many examples like that during our studies. We would push back. And they kind of like, hey, but that's how we do news. It's like, yeah, but this generation don't want to read that.
And you know what's funny about journalism, bro? Like, they say, oh yeah, to be a journalist, you have to have neutral opinions, but bro, it's biased, man. Whoever's paying paying the bills is their view is going to be prioritized more than a neutral view. And what was that navigating that, bro? Because
Yeah.
obviously there is a bias.
There is a bias, and the thing about news is it will never go away.
Yeah.
And I know some people are like, "Oh, I hate the news," and look, I don't watch news.
I don't watch.
Yeah, I don't even read news. I only see my people stuff, like my friends in the industry. I may watch their stuff, but I also stay away from it because it doesn't interest me that much, especially mainstream news.
Exactly.
But the thing about journalism, why news will never go away, is because it is one of the four pillars of democracy. The government has to fund some sort of news element because they're the ones that hold politicians accountable. And so, never.
Do you think that's changing though?
Uh,
Do you think that now that there's big creators and influencers now have, like, you think about the American election,
yeah,
Joe Rogan, Elon Musk,
yeah.
like they had a massive influence on on the voting.
And there was that guy on TikTok who goes to the universities, and
There's a few of them.
he goes to the universities and he just like he's like, ask me a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had a massive influence as well.
Yeah.
And he was Trump.
That's what I was saying. Like, do you think the government's role to as part of ensuring democracy to fund TVNZ and the news will be obsolete because we live in a new era where influencing can really sway the political views as well.
I think it's the funding, the model is changing in terms of what other than politics news, other media companies are coming to tell those stories. So I think the funding will keep from the government will keep going down there.
Yeah.
But I think it'll always stay in politics
Yeah.
because it sort of has to.
Yeah.
Because like I spent all my life up until the age of 30 not touching journalism, didn't really like the news, but I went and studied it anyway because I wanted a doorstep into media. But one of the things you do realize is that when you train as a journalist, there's some foundations you do need to learn, like having a non-biased opinion. You can, we all have our opinions. Let's not beat around that. We all have someone we wanted to vote for in the elections. We all like certain politicians more than the other. However, as a journalist, you are taught how to write in a way that it is balanced. Fair, accuracy, and balance is the core principles of journalism. So I think money from the government will always stay in politics. Yeah, but everyone else
Now,
now,
also makes sense from an elections point of view too.
Yeah.
That it can be fair and transparent, so that each party, although that you want equal exposure, it's not always the case too. Like,
and that's why the government give money to these Pacific organizations and our Maori organizations because they're meant to do that. They're meant to give the voice of the other side of the politicians. It's just we're kind of struggling now as our Pacific media trying to do that because the mainstream media have a system. They know what to do. Politics news is kind of fairly new to us because we don't do politics news even in the islands.
bro, but you know what's big in politics news at the moment? The Samoa news about, bro, I had to, man. Like, no, that's legit. Like, you
Yeah.
think about the diaspora communities across Australia, New Zealand, and maybe probably the States. They're all watching Fast Party.
Yeah.
And they're all watching the Blue Wave and like those channels where,
Yeah.
bro, like now that people have access
Yeah.
to everyone has a phone now in the islands. Politics is a big thing, and that's what's going on at the moment. Like a lot of controversial stuff, but
Yeah, it's and the thing that people also need to realize is the point of a journalist or a reporter, or when it comes to politics, we are there to relay the information for the people. That's the thing we're meant to do.
Yeah.
It's just if we just relay the information, like for example, I went on a trip what they call the Pacific Missions, where you go to three Pacific islands. Sometimes it's more within the space of 5 days. And I went with Winston Peters. And the New Zealand government
yes.
gave a couple of million. They didn't give any money to Tonga, but the word around the street was it was just there were just some things that they were unsure of, but they gave some money to the Cook Islands, for market, and Samoa to this new science project. So they gave a couple of millions. Now, if we just report, New Zealand had given us millions to a lot of the mainstream places, they're like, "Well, how is that interesting?" And so they want us to give a hook. They want us to give something like, give us a reason why we should care. And that's why the news comes out bad, because mainstream has taught us for so long that if you show something
Bad
bad,
news.
people are going to watch.
Yeah.
But it's changing. I think people
That's good.
I think people don't really care anymore because they've seen it. They're like, that was television. Now we have all these other options. You can just
we have all these different point of views.
Yeah.
Too. Like, I kind of feel too like for my own journey around navigating the truth, right? Because nowadays everyone has their own version of the truth. But there's only one truth, and that's our Lord and Jesus, Savior Jesus Christ. um, yeah, like it's what's the analogy around the six dice? The six sides of the dice, right? You can look at one side of the dice, but there's a different perspective on each other side. And I think for me, going into mature adult father, husband, and being especially being a father, you have to navigate like what you see, um, on social media and online and what's surrounding you. Yeah, you have to make sense of the environment around you, and I think that's really important. For because we've got so much information, it's hard sometimes to make sense. Yeah, so to make sense of the truth, especially like I wanted to touch on like hooks and headlines and stuff. What's your view on like clickbait, like headlines? Like sometimes, because some journalists take bad reps for misleading, and like you touched on the South Auckland one. You always see an article sometimes that kind of portray South Auckland in a bad light. But what's your view on that? Because that must be quite difficult knowing coming from you're from South Auckland as well. So
Yeah, it's the thing. We're in an interesting time where news outlets, because there's no longer a one piece of information, the television, because the television is no longer there. News outlets are now, or like where you get your information from, they're seeing less and less money come through to them because no one's watching the TV, no one's going on the website because they have so many options. I don't know. I have a screen in my thing like you over here, but I watch Netflix or Amazon Prime sort of thing. But so they're going through a thing where they need people to click on the websites because advertisers pay for their ads to be on their
Yeah.
website, and that's what brings in the money outside the government thing. So in order for you to get a someone to just click on the website, that's why they have those headlines. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
but there's people see past the BS now. Like
Yeah, of course.
they see the headline, and our people now, especially the young, like the early 20s. So are they Gen Z?
Gen Z.
Gen Zs. They don't take anything now. They see and they're like, because of that headline, I'm not even going to click on it anymore. But but the thing is, they're not making the money yet. But it's the older people who have the money and who will click on it and who will see the advertisement.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
All goes back to ads, right?
It all goes back to ads. So I don't agree with it. I believe you can make a headline, which we have been doing since we started in journalism, that can be funny, that can be like, one time I wrote a story about these two girls who started a tech company called Fiber Fale. I don't know if you've heard of them. Fiber Fale.
And what's the girl's name?
Yeah, I forgot. Julia? Yeah, it's it on. We've got a podcast too. We just want to clip that part up. It's it on Julia. They started their one at a meeting at KFC. They decided, oh, let's have lunch at KFC. They had some KFC. You said, cool, we're gonna start Fiber Fale. I'm sure there was more to it, but that's at the end of the day, that's what done. My headline was like the tech company that started from KFC, and it had them with a photo outside KFC, and they loved it. So you can still and it got quite a few clicks. I mean, the article wasn't too great, but it got quite a few clicks. But they loved it. Like you can still work around it. And one thing I will like, because I sort of asked them too, hey, is this headline? They're like, yeah, that's so funny. But the thing is, as a journalist, once you do the interview, let's say I do an interview with you, it's not general practice to be like, hey, are you okay with your article? Are you okay with this? Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. You're not allowed to. You can do it, but you're not supposed to do that.
Whoa.
Yeah, they tell you.
But just because you're, just the type of person you are.
Yeah, they're good.
That's interesting. I didn't know, because you've written an article on me before, and you've done that. You've done this practice checked in, and true. And
Yeah.
that's general practice.
So they tell you like we would say like, hey, this person is requesting. This is when I was studying. They said this person is requesting if they can view the article before we publish it, and they said no, it's not it. Once they like, I don't know if maybe it's a legal requirement or it's just general practice. I'm not sure, but they say once they give you the interview, it's all up to you. We write the article. It then goes to the editor, and the editor will make the final changes, and they upload the article without even you knowing. So like, or like, not that you don't know, but sometimes they can make drastic changes and almost change your complete story, but they don't check back with you, say, hey, are these changes okay? They just sort of upload it, and then, but that's not general practice to give it back to the person you interviewed.
And yeah, and I guess as a journalist, right, you're essentially a storyteller, right? And as a storyteller, you have a responsibility to make sure that story gets told in the manner that it was meant for, right? And so, um, bro, have there been any kind of interviews slash stories or things that have really impacted you, or like what how has that been for you being able to tell a story? And I don't know, I haven't kind of seen all of the stuff that you've done, but what was it like being a journalist and having that responsibility to tell those stories? And
Man, great question, because see, you'd be a great journalist too. There's a couple that come to mind. I think one thing that stands out to me that impacted my that normally when I ask questions and I get the thing, because you do it every day, you sort of become immune to people's answers. Because but one example I would give is when I was traveling with Winston Peters last year.
Uncle Whitney.
Yeah. One of his answers really kind of affected me, and it didn't hit me till I got back to the hotel, and I wish I got to like call him out for it a bit more. Well, not call him out, but I wish I got to got him to speak more about it. But we were in, I think it was the Cook Islands at this point, and I asked him, "Hey, Winston," because he was wearing a suit and it was hot, in the Pacific Island. And I go, "Do you think you're chuckling on the Ia Lava Lava and Aloha?" And
Listen, did when you went to Nuit?
exactly. And Chris Hipkins, I traveled with him the year before, and he did too. As soon as he landed, he got changed. And I asked him, "Oh, you might want to get changed. It's over 30 degrees here in the Cook Islands." He's like, "Oh, I don't want to look down to them by the way I dress. I dress like this."
Typical old.
Yeah, I was like, well, what does that mean? We're just trying to look after you. You're an old man who has to, well, like an older fella who has to be awake from, just as soon as the sun rises all the way to the sun sets. Like, it's just a courtesy thing. Pacific Island people will love you for it if you did.
Plus, like if he's wearing a white shirt, you gotta keep that piece on for the whole day, mate.
I want to see no sweat patches of it.
The yellow patches there. Oh, Uncle Willie.
But the story that really did impact me, bro, was at Polyfest last year. I went over not knowing what I wanted to do. We got told, the government officials, like Winston.
What hat were you wearing in this hat?
I was a journalist. Yeah.
Or
For Whakata Māori.
oh yeah.
I was a journalist for Whakata Māori, and I went there not knowing what story I wanted. The Labour Party was there. Winston Peters was doing his round. So it started off with a political thing. And I was like, okay, that's cool.
And all the journalists, hey, you guys all congregate and follow each other.
Yeah, and we were all there. TV3 was there. TVNZ was there. And but then I was like, you know what? My cameraman went home. I went back to the workspace, and I was there, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm here for the politicians, but it's Polyfest. It's for the kids. So I called the other cameraman. I'm like, hey, bro, his name's Phil. Shout out to Phil. I called Phil. I'm like, hey, do you think you can come over to Polyfest? There's some questions I want to ask kids. And all it was like, what I wanted to do with all the kids is just go around and say, hey, with all these government officials around here, you were in a room with the government, what would you ask them? And we must have went on to about 10 different people. 10 different lots of kids, and the amount of young kids from primary school all the way to senior, they knew about what is going on in politics. They knew about why you're killing our free lunches. What's the use of and this primary school girl asked me, can you ask them, I would ask them why they're taking away gang patches. And she looked like 7, 8 years old. And then all these kids were like, there was these group of Wesleyan boys. They were saying, I think I would ask them, are they going to make tougher laws on vaping? Because we just walk into vape stores and they just give it to us without even asking for ID. And it made me think like, man, we're going through a generation that is getting the information on their phones and they're actually in tune with it. Like as in us in high school, we couldn't have cared less
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah,
politics, and that impacted me, bro. Because then when I put it up online, every um politicians from both sides, the Green Party, the National Party, Labour Party, they all shared the post, even though like they were asking questions about their government, but they were writing stuff like, "I can't believe these kids know," and it was just very fascinating.
the process there. That's buzzy, and that goes back to like a responsibility you have as a storyteller. Now that they're about, like you said, kids have access to information, um, those sort of information, and I think there needs to be education too, like around how, especially in schools, how you interpret the information, like and like what influences kids. And I like as a dad, bro, I'm like real strict on like YouTube is a big thing too.
Yeah.
YouTube's a massive thing. So, well, 'cause, there's a saying, "What you feed your mind, influences what you do as well." And so, making sure that because it can be taxing too, like watching the news. That's why I don't watch the news. 'Cause there's always bad stuff, bro. And but I've been getting into uh X in the platform.
Oh, on Twitter.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
people call it X now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But
That's FYI, as a journalist, that's where you get your most up to date news.
that's
Is we
good.
use Twitter.
I got Elon and Trump like on like my top notifications because that's how I get like what's happening
Mm.
like from a global perspective. Um, but yeah, I kind of I'll come back to the journalism stuff, but I want to dig more deep into kind of it's your personal journey, bro, around navigating your career, but also how family is a big part for yours, and that kind of reminds me of like my family, how they would come to my rugby games and blah blah blah. Every rugby, even win or lose, they'll come. And similar story to yours, like with your shows. I've always known your family to be a supportive one. And how's that been for you? Being able to try out these, as someone developed, as a young man developing your career, how important has family been to you and the values that they've shared?
Yeah, it's nice when you have a supportive family that just like they give you that bit of inspiration to keep doing what you're doing. Because I know if my family really didn't like what I was doing, they probably wouldn't turn up, you know. Actually, maybe they will just to support me. But having especially my mom, number one supporter. My mom will come to she's been to every show, the opening night and the closing night. Um, and she's a very like introvert. She prefers to stay home, do her hours around the house, and that's it. So for her to come out in public, it's a big thing for her. So if it's a big thing for her, it's a big thing for me. My dad, just like your parents dropping you off to rugby trainings and everything,
Yeah.
tell you what you do, good or not. My dad would drive me to auditions, like when I couldn't drive. I probably still can't drive, but when he'd drive me to shows, drive me to practices, no matter how early or late it was, he would make sure I get that because he could see that's what I wanted to do. He also wanted me to have a job. He was like, make sure you have a job. It's at some point you got to stop doing this sort of thing. But he would drive me just like rugby training, except, I couldn't play rugby, so this was kind of like, sport to me. And then my sister has also played a big part because my sister's also the one that gets her friends and her family. She's probably the first one I saw, like, how networking really is. Like, then her husband came along, and all his family now come to all the shows and all the kids and stuff like that. So having those core people there who are generally interested, because then after a show, I'll go back to them and they want to know what happens behind the scenes. How do we do that? It's become massive, and because of their love and support, just pushed me to do it more.
And important that having that foundation, having the rock, having a solid rock for you, especially in times where there's a lot of road bumps that life can throw at you. And I want to touch on that too. It's like, has there any been throughout your journey? Have you ever had any doubts around what you're gonna do next, and maybe if how you overcame that? Are there any examples or stories in your timeline, your journey that you've been able to
I
overcome?
Yeah, man. Like I've been like so when I started St. Peter's before you came, I
It
spent,
was a different school back then.
it was, we had grey uniforms back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're that old.
Yeah. We had grey uniforms right up until like,
You're the C Block Brotherhood.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, C Block Brotherhood.
Yeah.
So we went from year 7 all the way up to year 11. I spent a lot of time at Starship Hospital because when you're born as a dwarf, bro, you're born with there's like severe cases, there's not as much. I've been blessed that I'm on the okay side of things, but I still had to have multiple surgeries to
Wow.
correct bone structures, hip structures. So I spent a lot of time in hospital, like
From year 7 to 11.
from
Yeah.
from primary school,
Yeah,
sorry.
I was gonna say.
From
Of
primary
course, there's a lot of changes as well as you going through puberty.
Yeah,
too,
and
so-
puberty, yeah. And so I spent a lot of time in
Oh, I didn't know
hospital,
that.
missing a lot of school as
Yeah.
well. Probably why when I got to my senior years, like I was behind in terms of learning and my ability to say switched on in class. But I spent a lot of times there. Most of my surgeries, it meant I couldn't walk for about 3 months, and then so it just to let the bones heal because a lot of it was one was on my neck that affected that was the biggest one on my spine, but then the rest of them were from my like lower hip all the way down to my ankle, and I still got one more to come on my hip, but that's about 15 years away. But I spent a lot of time in hospital. I think using that, and one of the things was in order for me to be as healthy as I can to make these surgeries work well, I had to keep my weight down. Yeah, I had
That's
to.
hard in the island household.
That's hard in an island household, especially when McDonald's seems cheaper than groceries sometimes. So I had to learn. I had to learn about not putting on too much weight from pretty much the age of year 9 is when I remember. And so I used to. That's how I got into dancing because I joined Polyfest as a way because I was like,
So only in year 9 that you started dancing, like.
no, and I still in primary school, but I didn't I didn't have an urge for it. People just like seeing a little guy run around.
Yeah, but like you move the way you move, bro.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that you had all the surgeries the way you move.
Yeah, and but that was the thing. I ended up getting into Polyfest, and then we used to do those comps called Bring It On back then.
Yeah.
And I really got into it. But the doctor used to say, "Hey, you're losing weight. Hey, if you keep this up, you're gonna keep your weight down, and then you don't have to have as many surgeries as getting older." So I like from a very young age, I knew the importance of eating right, and I mean, I fluctuate now, but I got to learn that process, and that was sort of like my biggest thing. As a kid, when you're being told that you got to keep your weight down
Yeah.
at that age, just so you don't have to go under the knife again, because I hated surgery. Some people can have the mask on, go to sleep, and wake up they're all good. I absolutely hated
That's scorpion.
surgeries. Yeah, because that my ones also would be like 12 to 13 to 16-hour surgeries. So that was the thing. So I think going through that at a very young age, like without knowing it until now, anything that I put my mind to, I'm like, man, I I had to learn to walk like, and now there's people that have it worse than me, but I had to learn to walk from a very young age multiple times. So if I can get back up from that, I feel like I can do anything.
Yeah.
And at this stage of my life, I feel like all of that is now starting to pay off.
Man, that's real humbling to hear because like always gets me emotional because I've known you like for a while now. But like I've always wondered like, man, Aaron has like really like you're a really confident person. Like I don't know if people tell you that it was, but like the confidence you have, it brings an aura to yourself, and I guess that's why we always gravitate towards each other, just through business, just through catch up, and the circles that we have. But that makes sense. Also, like, growing up, being a bit different, by having those surgeries, and at a young age, you have to teach yourself the discipline and create that mental fortitude. To now a mature man, trying to make your way, and it's a good segue into where we're at now with your careers. So you mentioned at the start you're a freelancer. Um, what's the plans for Aaron?
Man, so I have this thing, which this will be my first time speaking out about it in public, but it's a thing I'm starting called Island Things. And
Island
first and
Things.
foremost, it is going to be a media. Oh, it's going to eventuate to a media company down the line.
Yeah.
But what we are doing is taking me and a friend named Atutai Portuga Jews. She's from Rotorua. She's half Samoan, half Maori, and we are taking pretty much storytelling and doing it our own way, mixing what we've learned in news, mixing what because she's a performer as well, knowing what we do at performing, and adding a bit of a twist to it. Like there's some stuff like, for example, we just finished interviewing Phyllis Mitty. She's the 5-time long drive champion,
Oh,
and she's from the Cook Islands.
she.
Mm.
Yes, I've met. Sure, pretty. I'm sure I met Willis.
I-
Is he based here?
She's based in Atlanta now,
Yeah.
but you probably would have met her. She's here all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But you probably would have met her because she gets to as many events and stuff as she
I
can.
was gonna say, I'm pretty sure she came to Pop Play one time.
Yeah,
And she followed us. Then I followed her page. She's like a famous golfer.
yeah, and she used to work at AUT as well.
Oh.
Yeah. And we 5-time world long drive champion, and we got her to we went to the driving range.
Yeah.
And we got her to smack the ball off my shoe as long as she can. So it's like doing things like that. So we're gonna start telling Pacific Island stories of everyone. But we're doing it in a way where they're gonna be able to speak about certain things that we might not speak about in the Pacific Island. We're gonna push the boundaries a
Yeah.
little bit, but in a positive way. For example, we had I'm sure you know Jim Stretton. He's a carver. JS carving.
Yeah. Just
So we got him to really talk about the issue of his friends and family asking for discounts.
bro. I saw a meme. Last night about this guys. I can't remember, but that's a typical one, eh?
Yeah, so we're gonna use the element of journalism, but to tell stories because we don't feel like there's enough of us yet. We do have some great ones like Coconet and Tangata Pasifika, but we also just want to do the same thing. But it's also going to be the other half is going to be a business side. So we're going to be launching. We're going to be launching cartoon characters of our Pacific ancestors. So we got from Samoa, we got Lawaki. From Tonga, we got Queen Salote. From Niue, we have from the Cook Islands, we have Sir Tom Davis, who helped NASA get on the moon, and then we also have a Fijian legend called Sir Ratu. Sakuna. And so we're turning these ancestors, their most famous photos, into cartoon figures. And so we'll put them on apparel already. And then our next step next year will be putting them into like plush toys. So that's what we're doing now. A thing called Island Things. And the first thing that's going to launch it is a thing called Tiny Talks, where I go and interview certain people and turn them into tiny bite-sized 90-second content. So,
Bro, that is so exciting.
yeah.
And I love how you've kind of blended all the things that you've learned in your career, but also you've thought about the commercial aspect.
Yeah.
I was literally having this conversation with because I just meet a lot of people that you just talk business. How you need to have a good balance. Like if you wanna, like you said, the social aspect of what you're trying to do is to tell better stories about the Pacific people. That's what I got from what you said.
Yeah.
But there's also you also got to put bread on the table, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And that comes with bringing the commercial aspect. But you can be commercially viable and create a social impact. And what you've just mentioned there about the model that you're using, merchandise, obviously creating cartoon characters, you can create YouTube monetization of that. And so I think it's really important for people that want to get into business. Often our people, we like to do, like a lot of Pacific Islanders have social enterprise business models, right? But to be sustainable, you need to have those commercial aspects. And it's awesome to hear that you're already thinking about that also. And and I'm excited for the journey ahead.
I guess that's what I learned from all those years, like, because I needed a business partner. I started, when I was selling gutter boards and stuff, I'd done everything on my own, from packaging and couriering to doing the website to marketing to ordering stuff. And I burnt out, but I also wasn't too passionate about it.
Yeah.
I'd done it as like, okay, let's experience in product selling. And I wanted a bit of experience in it. And I'm like, cool, I know what I got it. I knew how to market. And I'm like, okay, I can pretty much take the core principles of starting up a legit business and turn it into something that I'm actually passionate about. So me and this girl, Atsutai, she's taking care of all the media content. So that's her side. And I'm just strictly the business element. And then we just have a meeting every Monday. We live together, so it's not too bad. We meet every Monday. We conversate, okay, what do we got to do ahead? And the most important thing is we just get to do it. And that's one of the things in business too that I've realized is like, don't wait around too long. Like, just do it. And so far it's working out for us. We're just doing it. Half the time we don't know what we're doing, but we go to it, we do it, and we're like, this didn't quite work out. We'll do it better next time.
All right, and it just takes me to like my own journey from a biblical perspective, it was like had this conversation. Like, bro, that's the conversations we've been having with business owners. Like, it's often the conversation I have with people that like want to meet with me and like this idea,
Yeah.
this business idea. I don't know what I do, and I've literally in the last 24 hours I've had two of them. I have them weekly, and
Yeah, just do it. Do it,
yeah,
people.
yeah, just thought.
You'll figure it out.
But coming back to like what has driven me, like, is having faith. Like faith is believing in the things that are unseen. So, sometimes you don't even know what the plan is, but you got to take action, and that comes with obedience, bro. And so I think the key thing for me in business so far is faith and obedience, and having being obedient. If God's put that idea in your head, who are you to question it?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's really awesome that, like you mentioned, take action. Because uh, I've read a quote somewhere, and it goes along the line of, people in business, the most successful people in business are able to take an idea and action it fast, and so I guess that's really important in business. Like, yeah, like you said, you with your other business venture, Incredibles and equipment, there was a tester, test the waters, and now that you have the learnings, and you can put it into the business model. And say, I'm really excited for you, bro.
Yeah.
Also, we're coming to the end of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Man, really enjoyed our conversation. I guess the last few questions is what I usually ask most of our guests. You've done a lot in your time, but there's so much more that you can do. And I'm looking back. What's something you're most proud of?
Oh, I'm most proud of. I honestly, I think, I from a very one when I was in primary school, I was only, I think I might have been 6 or 7 years old. But back in primary school at St. Anne's, to join the Samoan group, you had to be in either a year 5 or 6 boy, or you had to be a year 7 or 8 girl. And but because I was little and I could dance just from church stuff, a teacher named Mrs. Apaneru, she said, "Oh no, I want you to be in the Samoan group." And I said, "Oh well, I don't know what I said. I don't. It was only 5 or 6 years old." But they pushed me into the Samoan group to do it. In front of in front of everybody. And I remember my classmates being like, "Oh, what does he get to be in the Samoan group? He's not even old enough." But that gave me the confidence and ability at a young age to work with older people, and I was sort of forced into that limelight, and from a very young age. And I'm not saying I'm like super famous, but in my community, I performed in near a lot of community people. So I I get recognized a bit in our Pacific Island community a bit, just because of social media and stuff like that. But what one thing I think I get it from my dad is that no matter how many events I go to and people come up and be like, "Oh, bro, you're the guy from TikTok," or "Man, I remember you from Polyfest days," or "Hey, I remember you from Bring It On when you jumped out of the drum," or "I remember you from our church Govangas when you used to perform." I've always stayed there, asked for their name, talked to them, where you from. That has never left me. And I feel like I'm always very interested in the person that comes up, whether they're a little kid and wanting to take a photo. Because for some reason, when I go anywhere, especially the Pacific Island, they always just want to take photos of me. And I don't know, these people don't know me, but they want to take photos of me. Probably just because they don't see another small person. But one of the things I'm always proud of is just my relationships with people. I always want to make sure I have a positive impact, and I feel like I have. I feel like I might not remember their names, as we all do, because we meet so many people over our years. But I know that whenever I meet people and they come up to me and they want some sort of photo, or they remember me from this time of my life, I always try and make a genuine connection, and that's something I'm always proud of, bro.
And yeah, I guess at the end of the day, me, like, is that Māori proverb, the most important. What's it? He tangata, he tangata, he tangata.
Oh,
What's the hardest?
sorry.
Bro, for like, I get to carry on that coat. But people want to. That is the most important thing in the world is people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he tangata, he tangata.
Nice. I'm glad you know it. I'm glad you know it. Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta practice my quotes for the podcast. Get it there, people.
What
But
about you? What's your most?
yeah, what am I most proud of? Phew, shucks, put me on the spottles. Um, what am I most? I'm most proud about being a dad. Like I'm a family man. Like I love my family. Yeah, I'm proud. Like, I just dropped off my daughter to school. And like she's like 24, and she's not a toddler. She's turning into a little girl, like a girl, like, and then she's gonna be turning into a young lady. And this is her in the car, like she get here, and yeah, she has all her mannerisms. And I look at my kids, and I'm like, um, it makes me motivated to work on myself, and be the best version of myself. So that's why, and for me, like I've intentionally put myself into challenging spaces. And I put up a quote actually. That's in I can't quote myself, but the other end of the end of that quote, I said, you got to be uncomfortable putting yourself into uncomfortable situations to be able to become tougher in business. And so, um, ever since leaving a full time job, I've been putting myself into uncomfortable situations. Like podcasting, bro. I'm interviewing the guy that interviews people for career, and I kind of feel like I'm an imposter. But
No, you're doing great, bro.
yeah, that's what I'm most proud of, like my family, and that's what I get up every day, and it gives me a sense of gratitude of life, and being an entrepreneur,
Mm.
right? And, you can create a lifestyle where you can spend time with your family, and because time is precious and time is a limited resource. I guess that's why I'm meeting awesome people like you, posting content.
And isn't that great? Like you remember Jordan from high school,
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah.
Samoan group,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, he's now living in Melbourne. He's been there for the last 2 years, and
Isn't he a model?
he, huh?
Jordan, the model, Jordan.
No,
Jordan.
Jordan Chunkel.
Oh,
He
yeah,
tutored Samoan group
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
us. It's amazing you bring that up with your daughter too, because he's a relief teacher in Australia. He was a dean here at Onehunga High School. He's a relief teacher now in
Jordan Schmaltz, right?
Australia. And man, he's living his dream.
Yeah.
And by dream, he's a relief teacher. So all he does is
Yeah.
work from
Okay.
9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yeah.
because every morning he gets to wake up, walk his daughter to school, with his wife, and then he walks back. He just walks back home, hops in his car, and goes to work. And he does it with his wife every morning. And he's like, "This is my dream come true." And I'm like, "Bro, that's so cool to
Yeah,
hear."
that's it. It was like that's like ever since leaving my job, the 9 a.m. 9:30 meetings. I don't need to stress over it because I'm not stressing over someone else. I'm stressing about what I need to. I actually woke up late today. I was like, crap, I got a 9:30 podcast. So we had a bakery run today. I don't eat anything though because I live
On the co-pipes.
yeah. But yeah, there's little things in life also like put things into perspective, and yeah, it just makes when you're having a bad day, when you're down in the dumpster, just having changing your perspective, is really important. Also, I wanted to ask you one final question,
Mm-hmm.
because I know we're coming to the end of our time. What do you hope people remember about you?
Um, I, uh, I, I, I really hope. Honestly, I really like. This is probably the most political answer ever, which feels like it's moving away from the question. But what I really hope people remember about me is at my funeral, I hope that everyone that gets up to speak has something good to say, you know, and their everlasting memory of me or their main memory of me is a good time that we had.
Yeah.
That's honestly at my funeral when people are there, hopefully crying, that they get up and if they want to say something, they remember me for a good time that we had.
I think definitely had some good times.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah, we should have Ramiro had a drink on his first well, his first time.
nah, all good. Us, appreciate your time today, man. I'm looking forward to the journey ahead, but appreciate us.
Yeah, thanks,
See
man.
people.
Bye. Appreciate it.
Lum.